Hello my dearest friends, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. Now, I haven't done a tier ranking video in such a long time, and I was thinking about what kind of a video I can do that is going to be exciting for me to talk about, but also nice for you to see. I decided to do one where I'm going to be ranking all of the new releases that I've read this year. So it's going to be quite a few books that I'm going to be ranking today, because I think I was counting down the templates for the tier ranking thing and it's over 50 books that I've read. And I'm just going to keep my thoughts short as possible so this video doesn't get out of hand. But yeah, there's a lot of good ones that I want to share with you. There's a lot of ones that I've really loved. There's a lot of ones that were a bit disappointing and were not what I expected. So there's a lot of goodness within this video that you're going to see. I'm going to screen record my laptop right now, and I'm going to be starting with, really this is a mix. I didn't really stick to kind of the reading order that I followed, so it's going to be a mix of books, so ones that I've released just recently or ones that released at the start of the year. I do have to say that I did include a couple of books that released in December of 2023, and that is because I read those in January of 2024, so essentially they were new releases to me back then. But yeah, I included those because I still want to include my thoughts on those, because most of them were really good. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to get started actually with my most recent read, which is Business Casual by B.K. Borson. This is actually the fourth book within the Love Light Farm series, and it's the conclusion to the series, and I really love this one. So it's really difficult to pull off a small town romance where there is not a lot of stakes, there's not a lot of conflict, and B.K. Borson has found the formula for it. And this one was actually quite spicy. It was quite, I don't know, it was just a little different than the other three books in my opinion, and I really loved it. I had such a great time with it. Now, I'm not going to put it in my top tier, because my top tier is reserved for really books that I'm going to keep thinking about forever and ever, I think. So I'm going to stick with Loved It, and I'm just going to put it actually on here because I know that I'm going to have a lot of books on here, since I have 50 books to talk about and I loved a lot of them. Now, Savor It by Tara DeWitt released, I think, in June, and I read it quite recently and I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. This is another small town romance where we've got also a foodie aspect to it, because the hero is a chef. He's also a guardian to his sister's child. And I had a lot of fun with this one. I think I'm going to go with Loved It. I was thinking about a good time, but I'm going to go with Loved It. I didn't tell you about the tiers because they're quite self-explanatory. We've got top tier, loved, good time, and not worth it. I really wanted to keep it as simple as possible because yeah, there's no need for all the excitement when it comes to the tiers. It's really all up to which books were really good and are worth your time, and which books you should steer away from. So Savor It, I really loved, and I'm going to go ahead and recommend it. If you haven't picked up that one, it's definitely worth your time. Now, Leather and Lark, this one is by Brynne Weaver, and it's actually the second book within her Butcher and Blackbird series. The Butcher and Blackbird, it's going to be a trilogy. The first one was quite fun. It was different than what you would usually pick up and expect from a book like that, so I found it refreshing, and I gave that one 4 stars, so I really liked it. This one I really didn't love. I had a tough time with finishing it. I contemplated DNFing it at the 50% mark, so for me, I'm going to stick with not worth it. Honestly, sorry to say, but it really wasn't worth it to me. I'm going to pick up the third book because I'm still curious to see how she's going to continue on with the series, but yeah, this one was not it for me. Now, A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. This one was one of my most anticipated releases for this year, because I really loved The 7 Year Slip last year and The Dead Romantics the year prior. Both of those books were 5-star reads for me, but this one just didn't hit the mark for me. This one is again another small town romance. I don't know, it's a trend at this time, I think. So it's one where there is again a magical aspect to it, as Ashley Poston does with her books. And I really did love the magical aspect within the book, but it was just not what I wanted the book to be. It's a bookish book. I don't know what it is. There is some kind of a curse with bookish books, I feel like. Those really don't often hit the mark for me. I gave that one 3.5 to 4 stars because I had some thoughts on it that you can check out in my wrap-up video for that book. I'm not going to go into it, but yeah, still it just was a disappointment. So for me, honestly, it wasn't worth it if you compare it to her other books. Now, when we take a look at the next one, which is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. So this one has created a bit of a divide, at least in my opinion, because there's a lot of people that absolutely love this story and they're calling this one Ali's best work. For me, it didn't hit the mark. I struggled with it because it was quite more, she mentioned that it was quite more erotic than her last or all her other books, and it was really leaning heavy towards the spice. I just did not feel the connection between the characters as well as in her other books, and it just was not my favorite by her. If I had to rank her books, this would come in second to last because I hated, or I didn't hate, but I didn't like Bride. So yeah, essentially this one did not hit the mark for me, so for me it was not worth it. We're going ahead with Curvy Girl Summer. This one is by Danielle Allen, and I really love this book. I had such a good time with it. It's the perfect summer read. It has a very beautiful curvy heroine who is looking for a boyfriend. She's going on these dating apps and she's trying to find her next big love, and she actually falls in love with a bartender who is not part of her dating app shenanigans, but is someone who is at this place where she's going on all these dates. So it was just a really good time. I really like this one. The next one up is Attached at the Hip. This one I really liked. I mean, I had a really good time with it. This one is a reality TV. It's like The Survivor meets The Bachelor kind of situation. I had a lot of fun with it. I wouldn't say that I loved it as much as the other 3 books that I've placed in that category, so I'm going to place it in a good time. I'm a bit a stickler for wanting to have everything look the same, sorry. So that one I really had a good time with, and I think if you're in the mood for just a fun, short, good audiobook, because the audiobook was good for that one, just pick this one up around the summertime. You're going to enjoy it, I believe. Now the next one is a debut novel, which is Just Some Stupid Love Story. This one I was surprised by. I didn't think I was going to enjoy this one as much as I did. I'm not sure that everyone would love this story simply because it's one where the heroine is not the most likable kind of character. But for me, I had a lot of fun with it, so I'm going to go ahead and put it into the good time category. And yeah, I think you should check it out just to see if it's going to be something that might pique your interest. Finally, we've come up to a book that is going to go into the top tier category for me, and that is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This book, again, was one of my most anticipated releases for this year because I really loved Forget Me Not by this author. Last year it was one of my favorite books, so this one I was really excited about, and I was really hoping I was going to enjoy as much as I did Forget Me Not, and I actually really did. I had a blast with this book, and I'm definitely going to remember some of the scenes forever and ever within this book. So yeah, this one is a top tier book for me. It's going to end up in my favorites of the year. So yeah, I loved it. Now the next one is unfortunately another disappointment. This is The Rom-Commers by Catherine Center. Honestly, I hated the hero within this book. I also didn't buy into the romance. It just did not. It was not set up very well, and I just had a lot of expectations of this book because I really loved Hello Stranger by this author and The Bodyguard as well, and this one just really missed the mark for me. So it's a definitely not worth it if you ask me, at least. Now the next one is Christina Lauren's latest release, which is The Paradise Problem. So this one, I know that everyone has like a hit and miss relationship with Christina Lauren's releases, and I have that as well. But this one was really worth it in my opinion. I really love this book. I had such a good time with it, and if you're in the mood for a summer romance, this is definitely one of the best ones that you can pick up. It has the right amount of fun, or the right amount of spice, the right amount of romance, the right amount of just interesting and engaging and fast plot. So this one is just the best kind of summer read. I loved it, so it's definitely worth it for me. And then this year, a lot of Formula One romances and racing romances came out, and I actually read 2 books back to back that were having this Formula One racing in them. One of them is called Off Track, which is by Asha Patel. This one actually has a lower rating on Goodreads than the other one, but I actually love this one more. I'm going to put this one in a good time because there were some issues with it, but honestly this one was, in my opinion, better set up because it has more of the Formula One aspect to it. I'm the type of person who, whenever I read a sports romance, I want to see more of the sport within the book so that I can relate to the character who is having this career more. And then Cross the Line does have Formula One in it, but it's just not set up in the best possible way. While I'm not a Formula One fanatic, I'm someone who does understand the sport. And there were just some things that were off for me within this one. And when there is something off and you know that it's off, it's just bugging you the whole time. And then also the romance was not my favorite within this one. So I'm going to go with not worth it for this one. So if you're going to pick up, at least in my opinion, if you're going to pick up a Formula romance from the new releases, I would go with Off Track and not with Cross the Line. So moving on to a novella, one that I had such a good time with. It's called Silver Foxed by Kayla Gross. This one is definitely going in the good time category. It's a spicy short good time. It's an older man, younger woman situation, and he's actually her father's best friend and also colleague. So a lot of goodness within this book, a bit forbidden, and just a very good time. So yeah, definitely worth it to pick up, again, around the summertime if you want a short, spicy read. Now, for the first time last month, I picked up a Laura Pavlov book, and that is Loving Romeo. I really like this one. I'm going to go with good time. I didn't really love this book. Honestly, I think her books have a very good formula to them, and they really work so that they're really engaging and you're in the story, and they're cute enough and they're spicy enough, so they're exactly the kind of good time that you want to have with a romance book. But I think in the long run, if like a year passes, I'm not going to remember too much about the story besides the fact that the hero was a fighter. So I'm going to go with a good time here, and yeah, I'm good with that. Now, Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. I've mentioned this in my wrap-up for this book. I really didn't expect to love this book as much as I did, and I really did love this one. It features a divorcee who is completely out of it. She doesn't know what she's going to do now that she is single and has kids, and she doesn't even want to contemplate the whole dating scene situation. But then she has an encounter with someone from her past in a park, and then kind of unwillingly she stumbles upon a relationship. And I really love this book. I had such a good time with it. Now I need to move on all of my other books from my other page onto the template, so bear with me a second. Alright, so moving on to the next books. These ones are actually ones that I finished at the start of the year, so that's why I mentioned everything is jumbled up in my template. So please excuse my lack of organization for this one. I'm going to start the next batch of books with Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is the second book within her duology. So Divine Rivals was the first book, and this one is the second book. I really love this book. I really loved how it was set up, both of the books actually. I I'm not going to put them in top tier because they're not all-time favorite books of mine, but they really opened up my kind of perception of these kinds of books, that I really can enjoy these kinds of books because they are historical fantasies. I don't typically pick up a lot of historical books, historical fiction or historical romance, and I kind of had a prejudice against them, but these two books definitely changed my opinion that I can definitely enjoy these kinds of books. I really love both of them, so I definitely think they're worth it, and that they're worth the hype as well. So yeah, this one is definitely going in the loved category. And then I'm going to talk about 3 novellas that came out around Valentine's Day. They're part of the same bundle of books. There's actually 5 books if I'm not mistaken, but the other 2 were not really something that I was interested in. So I'm just going to talk about the 3 books that I actually did pick up. Abby Jimenez's Worst Wingman Ever. This one I think got a lot of bad rep because of the way that it was way too emotional for a novella, but I really loved it. I really loved it, and I would definitely recommend it around Valentine's Day. I really love this book. The next one is The Exception to the Rule by Christina Lauren. Again, loved it. This one was an epistolary novella. It was all the goodness. I really loved it. This one by Ashley Poston, With Any Luck, not worth it. It was just not worth it. It was like a wedding, like my best friend's wedding type of situation. It wasn't the best, just wasn't the best. So I wouldn't think it's worth it. And then we're moving on to a book, I think one of the few books that is not a romance, First Lie Wins. I was in the mood for a thriller in January, so I picked this one up because it just recently released, and I think it was like the Reese's book club pick or something, and I just saw a review off of Reese Witherspoon's I'm not good with words today, Instagram. So yeah, I was intrigued by it and I really liked it. I think it's a good time for a thriller. I wouldn't say it's the best kind of a thriller, but it was just a good time. So I would definitely recommend it if you want just a palate cleanser and you're in the mood for a thriller. Now, the next book is definitely one of my disappointments this year because the cute cover and the premise really got me wanting to love this book. It's like The Mummy meets Lara Croft, and I just wanted this kind of an adventure-filled romance, and the cover is really cute. It's called Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura, and definite disappointment here. So this one is definitely not worth it. It's one of the few books this year that I gave 2 stars to, so yeah, not worth it. And then finally, another top tier book for me, it's The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer. It's really peculiar that we've got a sports romance here because sports romances don't typically tend to get the rep that they can be top tier books because they're just a good time, right? But for me, this one just was executed in the best possible way. Everything was included that I would want within a book. We've got an obsessed hero, we've got a fake dating relationship, we've got banter, we've got a lot of fun between the characters, we've got explosive chemistry, we've got romance, romantic gestures. Everything that you would want to have in a book is just included in this book, and I really love the heck out of this book. It's going to end up in my favorites of the year, so it's definitely a top tier book for me. And then we're moving on to Bride. I already mentioned I didn't love this book. It's my least favorite book of Ali's, so it's going to go into the not worth it series of books. I don't know, I think a lot of people love this book because they love that she did something different. So her repertoire of books are really the STEMness books, and they didn't expect her to venture out to do something completely different. And I can get that. I can get behind wanting to support her in that way. And maybe a lot of people who haven't read any, I think this is like a megaverse, I'm not sure if it's in a megaverse, but like a shifter kind of paranormal situation, they're like, wow, this is great. And I really haven't read any either, but for me, I'm like, if this is like the best kind of paranormal romance that I can read, I don't think that the genre is for me, and I don't think that that should be the reaction to, you know, the setup of a genre, so, or a subgenre. So I think, yeah, Bride, in my opinion, is just not worth it. Now, the next one is a new release by Christina Forrest. I've liked Christina Forrest's other books, so I really was looking forward to this one. It was a good time. I wouldn't say it was my favorite by her, but yeah, it was just a good time. It's like the accidentally married in Vegas kind of situation, and it was really good. I had a lot of fun with it. Now, Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This one has me torn a little bit because I really didn't like the first book. This is like a small town. I wouldn't say it's a cowboy series because they're not cowboying in this series, but it's like a small town romance. And this one, while it was better than the first book, I wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't actively recommend this book. I did have a good time with it, but at the same time, I'm not sure whether it's worth it, and I'm not sure I'm continuing on with the series, so I'm kind of torn. I'm still going to put it into the good time category because when I look at the other ones that really have disappointed me, this one didn't so much disappoint me as the other one, so I'm just going to put it into the good time category. Now, A Fate Inked in Blood. This one also has me torn a lot because the first 50% of the book were really good, and then the last 50% were chaos, and I was confused the heck out of everything. And also I was so frustrated with the heroine that I really wanted to chuck the book into the farthest corner if I could, like half of the time out of the 50% that were wrapping up the book. So I'm not sure, and I think I'm going to continue on with the series because it was engaging at the end, but at the same time I was just so frustrated with this book. I'm going to go with a good time because I wouldn't say that it's not worth it, but at the same time, just bear in mind that you will need to look up maybe other reviews to see whether it's going to be for you. But this one was really weird for me. I don't know how to explain it else, but yeah, I'm going to stick with a good time here. Now, we're moving on to The Friendship Study by Ruby Burnett. This one was a good time. I had a good time with it. It was recommended by Ava from Ava Romance Books, and yeah, it was just a really good time. It's like a friends with benefits situation turned into feelings situation, and with a really interesting setup for it. So yeah, I really like this one. Now, This Could Be Us is not my favorite Kennedy Ryan book, but I'm still going to put it into the loved it category because I really love the journey that the heroine went on. Everyone has been mentioning that this is definitely more of a women's fiction book, more of that genre than a romance, and I would agree with it. But I still love this book. It was really the kind of book that you know that Kennedy Ryan will pull off in the best possible way. She'll have you feeling for the heroine. She will have you swooning for the hero. So this one I think is still definitely worth it. It's just probably not the favorite Kennedy Ryan book that everyone will have. I definitely love Before I Let Go more than this one. This one is still definitely worth it. Now, the next one is A Love Song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. Now, it's no surprise that 7 Days in June by this author is one of my all-time favorite books. So I was really looking forward to this one. But when I heard that there is a magical realism kind of situation going on, I was a bit hesitant. And I have to say that honestly, it kind of threw me off. I had a difficult time finishing this book and difficult time really connecting and engaging with it. I wouldn't say that it's not worth it. It wasn't my favorite kind of read. I'm going to put it into a good time because I definitely think that it's worth it more than the others here at the bottom. But still, at least for me, it was a difficult read. I loved 7 Days in June more because of the realistic kind of way that the relationship was set up. And in this one, it was definitely a different kind of story. So I would recommend it for people who love magical realism, but for people like me who tend to struggle with it, it's a bit of a, research on your own time to see if it's going to be for you kind of situation. Now, the next two books, I'm actually going to start with Powerful because it's the prequel novella to Reckless. I read Powerless this year as well. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. And then Powerful is the novella that follows Powerless. I really love this one. I actually shed a tear at the end of this book. So it definitely left me feeling like I want to continue on with the series, and I'm in love with the characters more now that I've read the novella than I was when I read Powerless. But then Reckless came out, and that one kind of ruined everything for me because I really didn't love how the characters continued their journey. I didn't love the setup of this book, and I was really disappointed. Now, will I continue on with the series? Definitely, because there's only 1 book left, so I definitely want to pick it up next year so I can see how it wraps up. But this one definitely was not worth it for me. Now, I've talked about Loving Romeo. It was a good time, and Wild River was also a good time. I had some issues with the hero in the end, so I definitely loved Loving Romeo more than Wild River, but still, it was a good time, and I'm going to continue on with the series for this one. Now, bear with me another second while I pull up the last batch of books, and then we're going to continue on with the last, I don't know, is it like 12, 13 books? Just a second. All right, so we're moving on to the last batch of books, and there's a lot of good books within this batch, and a lot of them are April releases. April was a crazy month. So many good releases came out, so many anticipated releases came out, and so many of them were really, really good. So I'm going to continue on, and the first book is actually one that is, again, not a romance. This one I picked up. I don't know why I picked it up. I think I had the idea of doing a non-romance reading vlog. I started on it and I still haven't finished it. I'm going to post it sometime, I don't know when, but I had thoughts on this book. And while it was good, it was definitely very well written, I had issues with it. So I'm going to put it into the not worth it category, even though it was really well written. If you disengage from the drama surrounding this book, I'm not going to go into the drama, but there is drama around this book. It's probably like a really worth it kind of read, and you will definitely enjoy it. But then I just had issues with this book because of the drama surrounding it, so I'm going to put it into the not worth it category. Now, Ready or Not by Cara Bastone, I really love this book. It's an accidental pregnancy trope, and it's an accidental pregnancy where the heroine doesn't end up with the father of the child. And I really love this book. It's a friends to lovers, kind of low stakes kind of situation, and really the hero and heroine growing into loving each other because of the predicament that she's in. I really love this book. Now, the next 2 stories are top tier books for me. Those are ending up as my favorite reads of the year. Abby Jimenez is Just for the Summer, and Funny Story by Emily Henry. Those have been discussed everywhere on BookTube, Bookstagram, everywhere, so I assume that everyone knows about them, and I'm the kind of person that really goes for the hype, as you see, because those are top tier books for me. But I just love these books. I love them so much, both of them. They're both favorites, ones that I'm going to remember for a long time. So definitely top tier books. Only and Forever by Chloe Lees is another top tier book. It's the wrap up of the Bergman Brothers series, and it was the best kind of wrap up that I could have wished for. Top tier, definitely top tier. Dungeons and Drama is a book that is a YA book. I don't typically pick up a lot of these, but I just saw the premise of this book and I was really intrigued, and I really loved this book. I loved it so much. And this is exactly, I was thinking when I was reading this book, this is exactly the kind of book that I would have wanted to pick up when I was a young adult. This was the kind of book that would have me swooning and have me just enjoying being that age. So yeah, this one I really loved. The Rule Book by Sarah Adams wasn't my favorite. I mean, I really loved the cheat sheet, the first book within the series of this one, and this one just wasn't my favorite. I'm going to go controversial here and say it's not worth it. because the cheat sheet was really good. This one I didn't love as much. I really didn't. Now the next one is a debut novel that I really loved, and this one I'm going to be recommending as much as I can because it's really good. It really reminded me of Real by Kennedy Ryan, and Real is one of my all-time favorite books, so definitely love this book. The next one is another debut novel, because this one was a debut as well, and then Dragon Fruit I think is a debut as well. It was really interesting, really intriguing, but I had a tough time with following the whole plot, and I had a difficulty with the pacing, so I'm going to go with A Good Time because it was definitely really intriguing and interesting, but just not in the loved category for me. Burnout is another sports romance that is going to end up as a favorite of this year for me, so it's definitely top tier. Top tier all the way. This one had me eating it up. It had me staying up late at night to finish this book because it was just so good. And then Falling for Gage follows a couple that is within the Archer's Voice world of Mia Sheridan's. But if I compare it to Archer's Voice and Travis, which is the next one up, this one I didn't love as much. I am going to go with not worth it, even though it was a beautiful book and there were some good things within it. If I just compare it to Travis and Archer's Voice, I don't think it's in the same realm of goodness and of, you know, yearning and the kind of feelings that it evokes within a reader. So I would say it's not worth it. The next best fling I just recently read, not worth it. Not worth it at all. I really didn't like this book. So this one is not worth it at all. And then this one is a surprise to me, Hate Mail by Donna Marchetti. This one I really loved. I love the heck out of this book. It's an epistolary read, a hate to love situation. I know it's probably not going to be for everyone, but for me, I ate this book up. I really loved it, and the audiobook for it was really good. The Art of Catching Feelings is a baseball romance, one that I didn't enjoy a lot, so I think it's not worth it. And The Kiss Countdown is one of the books that I had such high hopes for because it features an astronaut as a hero, and we don't get very many of these. But I love the hero. I kind of hated the heroine, so unfortunately, not worth it. Finding Mr. Right. This one features a writer. The heroine is a writer, but she doesn't want everyone to know that she's the writer of these books because she has chosen a male pseudonym for her persona, and she hires an actor to play the actual writer. Not worth it. Not worth it. I had a slightly good time with it, but I was like, when is this going to be over? I didn't love it. And then Here We Go Again is a top tier book. This is a sapphic romance by Alison Cochrane. It's a road trip romance, perfect kind of read for summer, emotional, spicy, all the goodness within this book. I really loved it. And the last book, we've come to the last book. It's 30 minutes in. I'm happy that it's not longer than 30 minutes. But yeah, basically Honeycut by Sierra Simone is the third book within her Lioness series. She has a novella, a full-length novel, and this one is the third one. I really love the heck out of this book. It's one that is spicy and there's a lot of drama, there's cheating, there's everything that is bad within a relationship, but so good to read about. So definitely loved the heck out of this book. This wraps up all the 50 plus books that were new releases that I read this year, and this is what it looks like in terms of whether you should pick them up or not. The top tier books, you should definitely run to the store right now to pick them up and read them as soon as possible. The loved books, definitely worth it. Whenever you have the time, look them up and read them at your convenience. And then Good Time, definitely still check them out. Some of them will probably not be for everyone, but I think that most of these are definitely worth picking up. And then the last category are ones that, at least if you were to listen to me, like if you have the same taste as me, steer away from these books because in my opinion, they're just not worth it. So please let me know if you like this tier ranking video, and if you want me to do more of these. And if you want me to do more of these, what would you like to see from me? I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Please don't forget to subscribe, and have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care. Bye.